You are watching Camnet TV, not just another channel. Welcome to the main news with Bandit Handiway. The headlines. 3 MPs test positive to COVID-19. Government fails to deliver 165 projects. Opposition happy with the beating of police officers by PF cadres. In international news, millions of children miss key vaccinations world over due to COVID-19. In our sports news, FAS sheds light on COVID-19 induced loss of the game amendments. Do join us with the details right after this break.
Msika is here. We have you all covered with just 150 kwacha. You can advertise every day from 17 hours to 18 hours. For a 30-second ad, get the benefit of selling your products and services on Msika. For more details, call our marketing department on +260 953 995099 +260 962 444 726 or +260 971 177 467. Email us on info@camnettvafrica.com. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. We continue with the news. Transparency International Zambia (TIZ) has called on the head of state to show a tone that promotes a mutual desire to end political violence as opposed to engage in party blame games. TIZ Executive Director Maurice Nyambe says what has been witnessed between the Patriotic Front (PF) and United Party for National Development (UPND) is unfortunate, and he calls for the need to end the confusion before the 2021 general elections. Mr. Nyambe says the president's silence on ending violence can be witnessed in various events portrayed by the PF cadres, including the violence against the Central Police Station.
First and foremost, as TIZ, we would like to condemn the violence that we are seeing happening across our country in all its forms. I think political violence particularly is an undesirable element of our political playing field. And I think it's something that we should not allow to take root, particularly with a view to 2021 when we'll be having our general elections. I think the danger with allowing political violence to take root is that it can actually have a negative impact on the electoral process in terms of making it difficult for voters even to go and cast their vote. And so we could see high levels of apathy as a result of that. But beyond that, I think looking at what the president has said in Mongo, we think that whilst it's important that the president has started to speak out on issues to do with political violence, our belief is that the tone that he should adopt, even as he does speak out on this issue, should be a tone really that promotes cohesion, a tone that promotes a mutual desire to end this political violence, rather than one that focuses on pointing fingers as to who is to blame and things like that. We believe that the president, being the head of the executive and really being the one at whose back everything stops, we think that his voice is a particularly important one, and so it should be a voice really that promotes cohesion and a desire to actually end this violence. Unfortunately, it is a well-known fact that a lot of the political violence that we have seen, the PF and the UPND have been at the center of this violence, and so we believe that the heads of these two political parties really have an important role to play in terms of seeing to it that we bring this violence to an end. So in a nutshell, I think our message is that the tone that the president should adopt, even as he speaks about political violence, should be one that promotes cohesion and unity, rather than one that assigns blame. But beyond that, we feel that there should be practical steps that are actually put in place to ensure that the violence is addressed. Because, like I said, it stands to actually impact on the general elections next year very negatively.
Kia's Executive Director MacDonald Chipenzi has advised the French government to stop wasting resources by erecting built-in billboards. Mr. Chipenzi says Zambia needs to see effective dialogue between the ruling and opposition instead of championing for the passing of Bill number 10. More details in this report.
GIA's Initiative Executive Director MacDonald Chipenzi has laughed at the level of desperation to see to it that Bill number 10 is passed in Parliament.
10 billboards in the Kafue National Parks, and we expect it to win the bill. The animals don't vote. So even here on the road, they are just wasting money. Bill 10 is a dead issue. Let's move on to other things that are productive and that are helpful, and not this Bill 10. Let's fight COVID-19, put money in the COVID-19.
Mr. Chipenzi says the resources of money that was wasted in erecting the billboards would have been put for better use.
The erection of those billboards is a sign of panic and desperation from those who are trying to push Bill 10 on the throats of the Zambian people. We can assure them that it will not work, because those cars they are putting the billboards to see, and the passengers, the motorists, they don't vote. People who vote are the members of parliament, and if they wanted, they would have pushed those billboards at parliament and not on the roads. Who cares? So this money that they are wasting, they should have invested it in the youths, or even pay those who supplied the COVID face masks, which they have not paid. Even the front line workers in the COVID, in the fight against COVID and its spread. But unfortunately, they want to use it in the billboards. This is not a referendum, okay? The way they are putting those billboards is like putting 10 billboards in the Kafue National Park.
Recently, we have observed that some billboards championing Bill 10 have been put up with writings Bill 10 says yes. Now, on the billboards, only 5 articles have been written, the first being reinforcing Zambia as a Christian nation, the second, safe seats in parliament for women, youth and the differently abled, third, accelerated development for all by increasing number of constituencies, number 4, involving chiefs in resolving succession wrangles, and lastly, increasing hearing for presidential petitions from 14 days to 30 days. MacDonald Chipenzi says what Zambia needs right now is to see dialogue between the ruling and the opposition and not the erecting of billboards.
Dialogue. But as long as we deny that we don't need dialogue, we will not, these billboards will be there all over, even in toilets will be put, because people think that when they refuse dialogue, then they can force people to read and act as they read. No, it's not true. I can read and forget about what I've read.
He further hopes the next dialogue does not give birth to another bill. Constance Mwemba reporting for Camnet TV News, Lusaka.
3 members of parliament from the Zambian National Assembly have tested positive to the coronavirus pandemic as of 15th July 2020. The 3 exclude the 3 cabinet ministers who earlier tested positive to COVID-19. Clerk of the National Assembly of Zambia, Cecilia Mbewe, in a statement explains that 10 other National Assembly staff have also tested positive to the disease. Ms. Mbewe further announces that 6 non-staff members of the National Assembly who were tested at the National Assembly Clinic have also tested positive to the coronavirus. According to Ms. Mbewe, the accumulative number of COVID cases recorded at the National Assembly Clinic now stands at 19. In a view of the surge of COVID-19 cases, Ms. Mbewe says the National Assembly of Zambia has continued to operate under strict guidelines as recommended by the Ministry of Health. And in other news stories, despite an increase in the new cases of COVID-19, government, through the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting Services, says it shall continue to engage the youth on matters affecting them and empower them economically starting tomorrow, 16th July 2020. The ministry's permanent secretary, Amos Malupenga, says the delegation to address the youth will include Chief Government Spokesperson Dora Celia, Minister of Finance Walyangandu, his counterpart Christopher Yaluma, permanent secretaries and other technocrats from various sectors of the economy. Let's get the details in this report.
In its continued efforts to interact with the citizens, particularly with the youths. In the area of economic empowerment, government has organized yet another meeting tomorrow at Mulungushi International Conference Center, targeting slightly over 100 youths and also other players from other sectors who are going to interact with two key economic ministers, the Minister of Finance, Honorable Dr. Waryangandu, and Honorable Christopher Yaluma, that's Minister in charge of Commerce, Trade and Industry, for the government through these ministers, who will also include the Chief Government Spokesperson, to appraise the youths on the opportunities that are available in the area of economic empowerment, also to look at the challenges, not only just the opportunities and challenges, and see through that interaction how we can forge the way forward in terms of economic empowerment in these two areas, targeting the youths. So we are yet again inviting youths across the country to tune in to ZNBC tomorrow at 8 hours, TV1. The event will be live because of the restrictions that have been brought about by COVID. We are not able to galvanize all the youths in one place, and so we are going to have more than 100 who will represent the others. Obviously, the rest can tune in, and through these are continuous engagements. Through this, we hope that we will pick something that will be pushed forward in terms of empowering the youth. So we invite those who have got issues to share to communicate with the Chief Government Spokesperson's office, and we will forward the concerns to the two ministers for input.
Members of the Committee on Government Assurances has informed Parliament that government has failed to deliver 165 projects it assured the people of Zambia. Seconding the motion of the report, Chilanga Constituency PF Member of Parliament Maria Langa urges government to make promises where they have capacity to deliver. Ms. Langa further urges government to take assurances it makes to the people of Zambia serious. More details in this report.
The Zambian government has from time to time made assurances to work on various projects countrywide. In 2018, government promised the Zambian people to deliver to them about 80 projects, but none of the promised projects were delivered. In 2019, government promised to deliver to the people of Zambia 116 developments, but again, none of those projects were delivered. And in 2020, government assured the Zambian people to deliver 165 projects. None of those were delivered. The Committee on Government Assurances, in its report to Parliament, says it is disappointed with the continued failure by government to deliver its promises, as outlined by Committee Chairman Elliot Kamondo.
The committee observes with disappointment that there is a growing tendency by members of the executive to make assurances on the floor of the House without requisite financing having been secured. It appears, therefore, that the executive is not committed to implementing the assurances and does not take them seriously at all. This can be evidenced by the accumulation of outstanding assurances.
Committee member and second of the motion, Maria Langa, urges government to take serious assurances it makes to the Zambian people.
Some of the assurances have been outstanding for as long as 7 years. The committee urges the government to take the assurances made on the floor of this House seriously in order not to make the work of the committee an academic process. In view of the foregoing, the committee therefore urges the government to only make assurances to the floor of the House where it has capacity to fully implement the projects within the promised time frame.
The debate was now open to other members of parliament.
All assurances must talk to the budget, because in a budget there are figures that are provided for every activity, and there is a constitutional provision which actually compels any government with its sort to develop a country in a very equitable manner. This is not the case with PF. Why? It's because their focus, Mr. Speaker, is simply to retain power at the expense of not telling the truth. They are not a truthful government, the PF. And the earlier people of Zambia realize that they are not a truthful government, they rely on conjecture, things that are totally don't add up. And then they come into this material confusion of giving councillors money to resign. That money that is being used for by-elections can be used to fulfill some of these government assurances, Mr. Speaker.
Vice President Inonge Wina wound up a debate on this motion by assuring the Zambian people that the government remains committed to working on all the projects that it promises.
Each and every assurance made by government on the floor of this House is made in good faith, and that government is committed, resources permitting, to fulfilling the promises it makes for the benefit of the Zambian people.
Kalan Muchima reporting for Camnet News in Osaka.
And in other news stories, Young African Leaders Initiative, YALI, has urged Zambians to be very careful with the opposition UPND as they do not mean well for the nation. YALI President Andrew Ntewewe told Camnet TV that the opposition has never preached peace in the country since 2016, but have only been inciting violence by promoting it. Mr. Ntewewe says it is saddening that most opposition leaders have taken the freedom of expression from a respective way of engagement to insults, which have since been their order of the day. He therefore calls on Zambians to embrace the president's call for peace during his visit in Western Province a few days ago.
Zambia has been a peaceful nation since 1964. And our biggest commodity which we have as a country is a peace that we continue to enjoy. And so the president's statement could never come at a more opportune time. His statement is building peace. His statement is something that every well-meaning Zambian must be able to embrace. Some of our politicians like to play to the public gallery. They don't understand the impact that you can have in a country if you are not peaceful. From the early point of view, we have had the privilege of seeing on the African continent countries that have been ravaged by civil strife. We have had the privilege of seeing countries that have been ravaged by genocide. And we want to anchor the statement by the president by stating that Zambians really love their peace and they don't want any genocide, they don't want any civil strife, they do not want politicians that promote political violence. Anarchy in this country has been going on for some time. Coming from 2016, if you recall, these opposition leaders have never preached peace. They have preached anarchy, they have preached violence. They have never condemned violence. In fact, what they have done is that they have promoted it. So, we commend His Excellency the President, and we call on peace-loving Zambians to embrace the sentiments that have been given by the President and understand that these opposition leaders who are promoting violence, they don't mean well. They have little or no idea about the impact which violence can have on a country. They have little or no idea about the impact that violence can have on our women, our children, as well as our youth.
Choma Central Member of Parliament Cornelius Mwetwa has described the Zambian Parliament as an epicenter for injustices of opposition members of Parliament. Mwetwa, who was speaking at a press conference held in Lusaka today, mentioned that he has a feeling that he is about to be kicked out of Parliament for standing up for the truth. Meanwhile, the opposition UPND has expressed happiness over the beating of police officers by the ruling Patriotic Front PF cadres. UPND spokesperson Cornelius Mwetwa says it is good now that the police are also testing what the opposition were complaining about all along. Let's get the details in this report.
Central Member of Parliament Cornelius Mwetwa maintains he will not apologize to Her Honor the Vice President for calling her statement shallow and shameful. He says he has the right to express how he feels during a press conference held on the 15th of July 2020. Mwetwa says he feels he will soon be thrown out of Parliament.
The aim is to hound me out of Parliament. And yesterday I could begin to smell the appetite of wanting to throw me out of Parliament. I could smell. Yes, I'm ready. And because this is a country of laws, I want to state that I have already written to the clerk of the National Assembly via this letter to petition and challenge the ruling of Mr. Speaker of 10th July 2020, in which he purports, Mr. Speaker purports to have found me guilty over my utterances of describing the allegations of us being gassers as shallow and shameful.
Cornelius Mwetwa further went ahead and described the Zambian Parliament as an epicenter for injustices for MPs from the opposition. He says he made reference to the statement from the Vice President saying gassing was initiated by the opposition in Zambia. He says he sees no reason for the Patriotic Front members overreacting over this matter.
Mr. Mwetwa, which home are you coming from? How were you brought up? Those are the things we're asking ourselves as women, because we are mothers. You know, and every time when you look at a person, you always ask yourself, where is this person coming from? How was he brought up? For him to use such bad words to a woman so graceful, a woman that has carried herself so well in this nation.
The issue to do with Our Honor the Vice President has no gender connotations or undertones, and no one should make a meal out of it. Continuing to postulate and stereotyping Her Honor the Vice President in this honest debate is abusing the gender advocacy to which I am the chairperson for the Men's Caucus for Gender Equality at Parliament.
Constance Mwemba reporting for Camnet TV News, Lusaka.
You're still watching Camnet TV, not just another channel. We'll do take a set of commercials and return with more news stories. Do not go away.
To create a positive difference in people's lives, one must first understand the way people live. At Savenda, we're here for our community, our partners, and our future, as a nation and as a continent.
Back in 1997, we decided we were going to create this family journey into a bigger opportunity, and created a business called Savenda, which meant save nations to develop Africa.
It's always important to give back to the people. The government cannot do everything, but as business entities, we'll be able to reach a lot of people.
From our humble beginnings in the telecoms and mining sectors to our work in energy and development projects, we know how important it is to be true to our roots.
Our services have to be diversified so that we don't depend on one income stream. Back in the village, I was growing up hunting and doing everything that a village boy would like to do. When you're hunting, you don't depend on one trap, for example. You have to have many traps. So those survival skills brought into the business created opportunities that we learned from a young age that you can't survive with just one product. Savenda Group involves Savenda Management, which is a consulting, Savenda Express, which is a corporate branding company, Savenda Electric, which is a manufacturer of energy-saving bulbs, Savenda General Insurance, which is a general insurance company, Savenda Fresh Produce, Cyber Africa, which is a center for just dealing with cyber security.
Now, Savenda is combining local knowledge with international expertise. It's time to be a part of Zambia's rising success and Africa's exciting future.
We are a gateway into Africa, and now we are praying with global companies who are coming to Zambia for opportunities and to look for companies that are homegrown, and we are proud to be one of those.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. My name is Banda Tandiwe, and we do continue our stories. The Center for Trade Policy and Development, CTPD, has predicted that the Food Reserve Agency, FRA, is likely to have challenges in procuring the targeted 1 million metric tons of grain in the 2019-2020 marketing season. CTPD Executive Director Isaac Mwaipopo observes that despite recording a bumper harvest, a recent spot check done by researchers from the institution in Kaoma and parts of Chongwe district has revealed that several sheds are still empty weeks after FRA commenced the procurement exercise. Mr. Mwaipopo says in trying to identify the challenges, the institution learnt that several farmers were unhappy with the 110 per 50 kg bag price offer from FRA has to offer, adding that despite government offering to buy grain on cash basis following the release of funds, several farmers are still hesitant to deliver grain to the FRA. Mr. Mwaipopo also notes that several farmers are now opting to either sell their maize to private buyers who are offering much higher prices to keep the grain until they see improvement, or to keep the grain until they see improvements on the prices. He added that farmers appear to think that the government merely wants to trick them into delivering grain and therefore thereafter subject them to the usual long delays in payment, which causes frustration. Let's get the details in this report.
The Food Reserve Agency, FRA, is likely to have a serious challenge to procure the targeted 1 million metric tons of grain in the 2019-2020 marketing season. A recent spot check conducted by researchers from the Center for Trade Policy and Development in places like Kaoma and parts of Chongwe revealed that a number of farmers are actually reluctant to deposit their grain with FRA. When we tried to interrogate on factors behind the reluctance, we learned that a number of farmers are actually unhappy with 110 kwacha participation that FRA is offering in terms of procuring grain in the current marketing season. And from the Center for Trade Policy and Development, we have a few recommendations. We are recommending that our government should seriously consider relooking at the current purchasing price that it is offering. If the Food Reserve Agency is afraid that if they increase the price, it might affect them in terms of their ability to pay in looking at resources, potential options to look at would be to reduce the target of grain to be procured and revert back to the 500,000 metric tons as prescribed in the Food Reserve Agency Act. Our second recommendation is to the fact that there is need to conduct a lot more sensitization around the recent pronouncement that government will be paying cash. From the center, we think that it was a brilliant incentive for our farmers, but a number of them do not believe their pronouncement. We further would like to recommend that more sensitization be done around COVID-19, as our observation revealed that a number of farmers are not adhering to the recommendations prescribed by the Ministry of Health on how they can protect themselves from the devastating effect of COVID-19.
The Movement for Multi-Party Democracy, MMD, has urged the ruling Patriotic Front, PF, and the United Party for National Development, UPND, to abandon pangas in the political realm, as no one wants to be ruled by a violent party. MMD President Dr. Nevas Mumba says the country is not divided along political lines, nor is it divided by tribal grounds, as people put it, but it is divided between good and evil. Dr. Mumba says the country desperately needs a new kind of politics, which are based on respect as opposed to those of violence. He therefore urges Zambians to raise the bar and abandon the current situation. Let's get the details in this report.
Political violence in Africa and Zambia in particular is on the rise and more complex than before. At this point, Zambia desperately needs to adopt politics of integrity and morality. Movement for Multi-Party Democracy, MMD, is saddened by how the head of state, President Edgar Lungu, was treated in Monza district of Southern Province. The head of state was booed during his visit in the province by suspected UPND supporters the previous week. An action which the MMD president, Dr. Nevas Mumba, has described as disrespectful, adding that the kind of politics being portrayed by the perpetrators were devoid of progress and belonged to the past.
A choice between politics of respect and politics of violence. The question is, how did we even get here? Insults, bullying, and then violence. This is now the acceptable norm of the Zambian politics. In fact, these attributes are translated as signs of popularity by some people. I wish to submit that this type of politics is devoid of progress and belongs to the past. A few days ago, I expressed deep regret in the booing of President Lungu in Monza. Some opponents claim that bullying happened in Kaunda days, Chiluga days, and Saturdays, and therefore justified.
Dr. Mumba says the booing of the president by some opponents is unjustifiable, charging that, in his view, the actions might agitate the violence Zambians see today.
Zambia is under a cloud of imminent danger. The country is being divided between north and south. This could be a precursor to civil unrest in the nation.
The MMD leader, however, observes that PF has been in the forefront in provoking the opposition, which he says was up to the opposition to restrain themselves, explaining that an eye for an eye blinds both parties. Dr. Mumba therefore has called on Zambians to raise the bar, as they deserved better than what they currently have.
Zambia must now demand new politics that focus on human development and the improvement of the quality of life of our people.
Reporting for Camnet Television in Lusaka, Zambia, Namwinga Mwinga.
And in other news, Republican Progressive Party Vice President Leslie Chikuse says RPP will further await investigations and information in regard to the allegations that President Edgar Lungu financed and sponsored the opposition leader in Rwanda to engage in tourism activities. Mr. Chikuse says this is the first time on record that serious acts of atrocities are being mentioned of a high-ranking leader. He says Zambia is known as a Christian nation world over and a beacon of peace with a smooth transition of power when it comes to leadership. This is according to a statement made available to the media by RPP Vice President Leslie Chikuse. The Born Short Living Tour BSLT, an organization that represents people living with disabilities, has expressed displeasure at various reports coming from some sections of society who are against the ECZ nomination fees for people living with disabilities. BLST Executive Director Ntalasha Chisha says he is shocked with media reports that some organizations and individuals are saying that people living with disabilities should not be given preferential treatment in terms of nomination fees that have since been reduced by the Electoral Commission of Zambia, ECZ. Mr. Ntalasha says he finds the report retrogressive, considering that the already slow pace at which government has embarked on ensuring that the differently abled persons are included in the governance system. Let's get the details in this report.
As an organization, we are concerned that some sections of society are issuing statements in the media expressing their displeasure at ECZ nomination fees in regards to people who are living with disabilities. We find such statement as retrogressive to an already progressive process that this nation has embarked on in ensuring that the differently abled persons are included in the governance system of the nation. It is important to state here that people who are differently abled do not enjoy the same access to society on an equal basis with others. Their economic opportunities, education, and social life are experienced with enormous limitations. Suffice to say, women and youths are presented with more opportunities than the differently abled. Yet we find that they are more supported than the ones who are mostly disadvantaged. We therefore feel that the move by the election body to include differently abled persons and further reduce the nomination fees across the different categories is a step in the right direction, as this will break the barriers that have been hindering differently abled persons to participate in politics for decades. It is high time that differently abled persons began being represented by their own if the interests of such persons are to be well addressed. Participation in political and public life for people living with disabilities enables them to take part and have a voice in decisions that affect them.
You're still watching the Camnet TV main news with Banda Tandi, where we do take our last set of commercials and return with international and sports news. Do join me after this break.
Stay home, stay safe. Times have changed. With the advent of the coronavirus, Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company would like to advise its esteemed customers to avoid visiting crowded places. You don't have to move to pay your water bill. You can do it in the convenience of your home. You can pay your water bills through Zanaco Zapit, Stanbic Bank, Standard Chartered Bank, and FNB. You can also use Airtel, MTN, and Zamtel Kwacha mobile money transfer services. For any inquiries to report a fault, please contact our customer service on +260 211 251 571, +260 975 618 618, and toll-free line 5957, Zamtel only. You can also simply email customerservice@lwsc.com. This public announcement is brought to you by the Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company. Water is life. Sanitation is health.
Msika is here. We have you all covered with just 150 kwacha. You can advertise every day from 17 hours to 18 hours. For a 30-second ad, get the benefit of selling your products and services on Msika. For more details, call our marketing department on +260 953 995099, +260 962 444 726, or +260 971 177 467. Email us on info@camnettvafrica.com. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. In our international news, nearly 14 million children globally were not immunized against preventable illnesses last year, according to a joint report by the two UN agencies, WHO and UNICEF. More than half of these children are in Africa, with those living in countries in conflict being the most affected. Dr. Robin Nandi, Chief of Immunization at UNICEF, told the BBC. Some of the missed vaccines are against diseases like polio, measles, meningitis, tetanus, whooping cough. Of greater concern to us are children who have not been immunized against measles, Dr. Nandi said. Children living in remote rural areas and urban slums are also said to be vulnerable. The report also warns that the number of children likely to miss vaccinations this year could double as a result of the disruption to immunization services due to the coronavirus pandemic. And in our sports news, the Football Association of Zambia, FAZ, referees desk, has shed light on some of the changes that it will adopt during the resumption of the league arising from the demands presented by the COVID-19 hiatus. Given insight on some of the expectations ahead of the league resumption this week, referees manager Azef Banda has reviewed to the FAZ media that changes will not be applied wholesomely. Banda says the team will be allowed a maximum of 5 substitutions, which is a deviation from the conventional 3 that were allowed before the COVID-19 crisis. Banda says referees will work closely with the Ministry of Health staff and stadia personnel in implementing the provided guidelines. On Saturday, Kitwe United will take on Police College in a lunchtime kickoff, while Forest Rangers host Zanaco in a 15-hour kickoff at Levi Mwanawasa Stadium. Both games will be played behind closed doors, with SuperSport beaming the matches live. On Sunday, Zesco United faces Kansanshi Dynamos in a 13-hour kickoff, while BuildCon will host Power Dynamos at 15 hours. That sports news item brings us to the end of the news, but before we go, a recap of the headlines. 3 MPs test positive to COVID-19. Government fails to deliver 165 projects. Opposition happy with the beating of police officers by PF cadres. In international news, millions of children miss key vaccinations world over due to COVID-19. And in sports, FAZ sheds light on COVID-19 induced laws of the game amends. The Camnet verse of the day is coming from the book of Psalms 33, verse 8 to 9. And it reads, "Let all the earth fear the Lord. Let all the inhabitants of the world stand in a way of him. For he spoke, and it was done. He commanded, and it stood fast." Remember to always mask up and observe social distancing. Thank you so much for joining me on the Camnet Main News. My name is Banda Tandiwe. Pleasant viewing, and God bless you.